Okay, so welcome back to All Things Mortgage Related. We're going to talk about self-employment, work history, self-employment income. A little special video just for those of you who are self-employed. We just talked last week about the just work history in general, but it can be a little bit different with self-employed people. So with self-employment, going back kind of like last week, if you've been in an industry, say working for 2 years, and you decide, hey, I'm going to go out and do this on my own. In most cases, you're going to have to show 2 years self-employment history. There are times where you can get by with 1 full year. By that, I mean full tax year of self-employment. If you can show that the industry you were at before relates directly to the self-employment you're doing now. But as a general rule, we'd say 2 years self-employment history is required, but do know there are exceptions for at least 1 year. Now, self-employment, the reason they're looking at that is, again, just because you did really good, maybe say in car sales, working for somebody else, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great business person. So you need that history to show that. But also with self-employment, there's more potential for income to fluctuate from year to year, which is, again, why usually they're going to want a 2-year history. Now, if you look at conventional programs, if you've been self-employed for at least 5 years, there's a great chance you might get by with just 1 year's tax returns to support that income, which if you have income that's increasing, be able to use 1 year versus an average of two helps you. Or by the off chance, if your income happens to be declining, if you're going conventional and you've been 5 years more self-employed, that's beneficial too, because if you have too much of a decline year over year, that can be an issue with underwriting. So that's one benefit of using 1 year's tax returns. Now, in the government programs like FHA and VA, USDA, they're almost always going to ask 2 years self-employment taxes. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this video about self-employment is how you look at income. This is a big difference here. I mean, there's a lot of self-employed people. Well, I'm talking with them on the phone, and again, this is the reason why pre-approval is so much more valuable than pre-qualification. Is on the phone they say, "Oh yeah, my income is last year I did $300,000." Like, oh, okay, great. Well, that's a really good income stream. We get the tax returns, and what we look at when we look at the tax returns for the business, we see gross sales were 300,000, but they had a lot of expenses. And so by the time they wrote off, cost of goods sold, they wrote off, advertising and all this other kind of stuff. That 300,000 ends up at $60,000. Very big difference on how the lender is actually going to use the income compared to that gross number. So you cannot go off gross. You got to go off net, but it's also not that simple. Now, I just said net, so you might look at your tax return and go down the net number and say, oh, I made $60,000. That's all I have. Well, not necessarily, because if you're writing off things like depreciation, depletion, amortization, business miles driven in a car, if you're actually itemizing your miles, these are things that we can actually add back into your income. And so it's really just important that if you're self-employed, take the time to get pre-approved with a loan person who actually understands tax returns, because some of these lenders, especially with AI, they use automated systems, and there's a lot of deductions that simply get missed on these automated systems. Or if the loan officer doesn't understand tax returns, there's sometimes very unique situations where things could be added back in or need to be taken out, that if that loan officer doesn't catch that and you get pre-approved and you go buy a house and then it goes to underwriting and then the underwriter catches it, now you're in trouble. So definitely want to make sure you're working with somebody who understands tax returns and how you can get the most money to be able to use to qualify. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have specific questions and stuff, of course, feel free to drop a message down below. If you find this helpful, hit subscribe, ring the little bell, share with someone else who might benefit from this video, and have a great week.